the B Plus is growing, and we want you to be a part of it. So if you have an idea for a podcast, or if you want to, write reviews for shows, whether that's WWE, New Japan, local shows especially, we have a big focus on Aussie Graps here. So if you go out to shows in Melbourne, we specifically need people in New Zealand, Tasmania, and Queensland. If you go out to shows in those areas, please let us know. We would love to hear from you. We would love to work with you. If you have a passion for wrestling and you want to write about anything wrestling, it can be anything. It can be listicles, it can be in-depth articles, opinion pieces, show reviews, whatever you want to do. If it's wrestling, it's fair game. Shoot us a message or send an email to thebplus@unchained.media. That's thebplus@unchained.media. Let us know what you want to do, and we'll get back to you, and we'll work something out, because the B Plus is growing, and we want to grow the B Plus family. Now, on with the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, Andre.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, on bar.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, Tomas covers, three-handle family Gradunzo.
Mamma mia!
And now,
Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin. It was me all along, Austin.
number four, armbar.
I will never retire.
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
All right, fellow B Plus players, welcome to the B Plus Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Sunday. You know what that means. It's time for All the Rest. All the Rest is that episode in the week where we sit down and we talk about all the rest with an asterisk and with a W. It's a pun, it's a play on words, and we can't always fit everything, of course, but we talk about all the rest of what's going on in the wrestling world. So things that don't fit into our regular weekly programs, like the Impact Zone on Monday, the View from the WWE Universe on Saturday, the Aussie Graps Show on Friday, etc., etc. You know them by now. If you don't, just have a look through hit the subscribe button and have a look through, and you'll see what we talk about. But this is where we talk about everything else, including most of the news of the week, because a lot of the news flies under the radar when we're talking about the results and what happened on TV. So this is where we talk about the news. And don't freak out, don't adjust your headsets or anything. It's me, I'm back, it's Greg Unchained. It's the first Sunday you've heard me in a while, because I've been off in Cowboy Land, and I've been covered for by the wonderful Mr. Mysterious, who joins me today. Mr. Mysterious, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you very much for having me on. What's the saying? Once is an accident, two's a coincidence, three's a pattern. What should we be saying to people at this point?
Yeah, well, I think that it's safe to say I've told people already with the WWE podcast as well. I'm handing the reins over to Mikey and CJ. And with all the rest, I will be handing the reins over to Mr. Mysterious.
I'm very honored for the opportunity, and I hope you guys are very accepting.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've heard nothing but good feedback so far, and I've enjoyed the shows myself. I've enjoyed listening. You've kept me up to date while I've been gone. I am still yet to watch. I'm still only halfway through the first part of Ultima Lucha Quattro, so I'm going to disappear and let you handle the results.
No worries.
And then I'm going to come back so we can talk news, because I want to talk some of the stories in the news this week have me very interested. So I want to pop back in and talk news. So if you can message me when you're done.
Absolutely. I am really interested to hear your theories on a lot of things.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so I'll let you take over from here.
All right. So while Greg is watching Ultima Lucha Quattro, the amazingness that is Ultima Lucha Quattro Part 2, Part 1, all of that, I'm here to fill in for all the rest. Now, for those of you who don't know me by now, I'm your WA representative here for the B Plus Wrestling Podcast. I cover most of the news on our Facebook page. Please like us. And follow us where you can, and I do all the birthday posts. Since the time I'm recording here, I'm going to give a shout out to Cowboy Bob Orton, who turned 68 today. Of course, the father of the Legend Killer, RKO, Randy Orton. We have Peyton Royce, who turned 26 today. Big happy birthday to her. And of course, the big guy known as Ryback, who turned 37. Now, we'll probably talk about him later on in the episode as well, but that's for a later time. I'm here to talk about all the rest. So I'm going to be covering, as Greg mentioned, a little bit of MLW, a little bit of Lucha Underground, a bit of WWE news, and just all the other news that has come around fresh off the desk here. So without further ado, let's get into MLW episode 29, where we saw the main event being the Hart Foundation going up against Rich Swann, ACH, and Marco Stunt. Now, of course, we started with Conan introducing the show, just chilling in the ring, nothing much, just saying how everyone's doing. And he says that unfortunately Pentagon and Phoenix, aka the Lucha Brothers and the MLW Tag Champs, could not be there tonight because someone, I wonder who, prevented them from coming. No more than a few seconds later, out pops Selena De La Renta. And she said that, hope everything's going well after I sent the Lucha Brothers back to Mexico. Dear. Conan then brings up, because Martinez is accompanying Selena De La Renta. They have a bit of a back and forth, and they just say, let's see how you wrestle. Let's see how you go. Selena's saying, oh, you can't afford Martinez. It's like, who could you possibly have? Out comes the Puma King. Now, we knew last week that the Puma King was going to be debuting. We didn't know exactly who against, and we didn't know that Conan was going to be representing him. Makes sense. I will say, before the match between Puma King and Martinez, the heat between Selena and Conan, it feels a little, I don't know if petty's the right word. It feels, you can tell that they're trying to one-up each other and that they're being both, well, Selena, more on the part of Selena, she's being a bit vindictive, trying to upstage Conan. But at the same time, I'm not feeling that level of hatred. And we're only, I think, a couple weeks away until LA Park and his son El Hijo de LA Park goes up against the Lucha Brothers for the tag titles. And I don't know. I love Selena, I love Conan, but I don't know if the stakes have been raised high enough yet. Obviously, we have the episode next week with Daga going up against Low Key for the MLW Heavyweight Championship. We'll see what happens there. But for now, we've got to see Puma King going up against Ricky Martinez. This is a pretty solid match. Obviously, this is Puma King's quote-unquote debut. If you notice for episode 30, the preview, they're actually saying that Puma King's official debut is during that episode. So I don't know what this was. Was this just I just happened to be in the building? But no, Puma King put on a good show. He looked a bit rough at times, but he's been getting more and more bookings, and I reckon he's been getting more bookings in the US. So I'm sure MLW will happily take advantage of him, which is awesome to see. Martinez has he's had a couple matches, but more often than not, he's been really Selena's assistant, secretary, enforcer. Can't really call him the enforcer personally, just because when you have someone like the professional Low Key next to you, you ain't no enforcer. You're his assistant, mate. But yeah, it was good to see Martinez he did put on a good show compared to the Puma King, but in the end, he did get rolled up and took the loss. I will say he did get a bit bloodied during the match. His nose got broken, so there was a bit of blood during that. Puma King seemed to be very agile during this match, so obviously showcasing his high-flying talents. So I'm pretty impressed with this match. It opened out pretty strong, so it was nice to see that Puma King made the entrance and made the save for Conan. We cut to Tommy Dreamer speaking about his match coming up against Brody King, saying that he's talking about Brody's tattoos. Like, Brody has tattoos, but he has scars to prove what he's been through. The innovator of violence is going up against Brody King. A dream match for MLW, definitely one of the many hardcore matches where Tommy Dreamer is passing the torch onto the next generation. So that was one of the things I was really looking forward to. we have our promo, of course, for Stokey Hathaway is returning to MLW soon. And we have next week when MLW goes to Title Town, you see Loki, as I mentioned, going up against Daga. We'll cover this later on. But yeah, we go to Brody King going up against Tommy Dreamer. This was fine. Tommy Dreamer, he's never been the most agile wrestler. He's always been he is built for punishment. If nothing else, when you have older wrestlers competing who are in their late 40s, 50s, even 60s, geez, you got Terry Funk. He's 74, 75. I don't think he's retired yet. I haven't heard any announcements, but guys like that, Terry should probably retire. But the point I'm trying to get at is when you have the older guys who aren't as quick as they used to be, but they make up for it for their strength, their experience, and just their ability to just dish out punishment and take it too. So this was fine. Despite being slow, it gave you what you expected from a Tommy Dreamer match for 2018. If you've seen him in House of Hardcore, where he's been touring all around, he actually came, House of Hardcore, I should say, came to Australia just a couple months ago. It was a really great showing for everyone involved. So Brody King, big man, and he's been presented as this big bounty hunter, you know? But surprisingly, this was his first win in MLW, so they're finally kind of giving him a bit of a push and a passing of the torch at the same time. So whether now we'll see him get a bit more momentum behind him, I would love to see that. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame because he has, who's he lost to? He's lost to Strickland, he lost to Swerve, he lost to Havoc. He had a double DQ with PCO. And the thing is as well with this match, because naturally it was just a singles match. It wasn't a hardcore match, which is somewhat disappointing. You want to see these two again, MLW is fantastic on foreplay, but when it comes to finally delivering, doesn't really happen as much as you want it to, even though you know that the wrestlers can go. If you heard the podcast last week where I talked about the spin the wheel, make the deal match with Sami Callihan and Jimmy Havoc, go listen to that. I kind of surmised it there, really. But in this match, Brody didn't win clean. He actually used a couple of weapons. I think a cheese grater was involved in some point. So he's had all these losses, and he can't beat Tommy Dreamer without involving weaponry. I don't know. It seems like they're a bit on and off, hot cold with him. So it wasn't a bad match. There just wasn't much there. And I know that King's he's needed to distract the referee, and he hit a low blow and stuff like that. But yeah, I hope that Brody can be a future title contender. And I hope because he's a big dude, he is one of those really built guys. I hope he can be one of those big dominant forces moving forward. Any wrestling promotion, they need just one guy, at least one guy who you are terrified of, is a constant threat. When they show up, run. And hopefully down the line, I would like to say that would hopefully be Brody King. We cut to interview with Tom Lawler. He refers to last week when MLW was in a Chicago taping, and it looked like Low-Key and Lawler were going to come to blows in the middle of a hallway. Just when he's about to confront Low-Key, out from behind comes Sami Callihan, who chokes him out, and of course Low-Key is taunting him with the belt, saying, "You can't have this." So in the interview, saying that Lawler has been beaten down in the past few weeks, but it's only because Promociones Dorado is worried about Lawler taking the gold, and they sent the mercenary Callihan to attack him. So everyone knows that Lawler wants the belt. They announced for, I believe, February. Tom Lawler actually recently announced that he would use his Rumble #1 contendership opportunity next year. For that one, so around about February there. I believe it was Fight Time. It was something to do with Fight Night. Something to that extent. But now that Callahan's gotten away, he's going to be the first treasure on Lawler's way to gold. And we have a couple more promos and everything else. We've got a member of Team Filthy, Simon Gotch. He's got this prize fight challenge going on They've raised the amount. It was initially the last time about $2,000. I think they're going to probably raise the challenge even more. I believe it's now 5 or 10 at the time I'm recording. So whoever answers the prize fight challenge will get the money. Of course, this isn't unfamiliar with MLW. They had a bounty on Shane Strickland's head until the professional Low Ki defeated him and, of course, won the $60,000 at that point. That's how high it got for that. So we should mention that the person who answered Simon Gotch's previous challenge was none other than Gangrel making a surprise appearance in MLW. It wasn't so much a match, it was Gangrel biting down on Simon Gotch's arm and Gotch win by disqualification. So it was one of those 2-3 minute matches that MLW likes to do. That's kind of a build up to the main event where they really go all out. So it was nice little, oh hey, it's Gangrel. So that was nice to see. I do wonder what he thought of the New Day's attire going into Halloween, the Halloween match, like where they all dressed up as the Brood. I thought it was a nice homage. I'm hoping he thought so too. But getting back to MLW, of course, so we have Sami Callihan now has a message for Tom Lawler. He calls him stupid for talking trash because Callihan isn't scared of some MMA fighter, and especially who can't defend himself from a baseball bat or being hit with a car. Oh, vicious. And you should mention as well, one of the things I like about MLW, they call them fighters. They don't call them wrestlers. And it makes it a nice kind of transition, especially for guys like Filthy Tom Lawler, that, yeah, and especially like they allow blood on MLW. It's nice. You can tell the feel that they really want to make it seem like it's really athletic competition. Yes, there's promos build up, a bit of horseplay here and there, but everyone is there to have a fight. And I like that. I think that's one of the reasons I do like MLW. But yeah, saying this Thursday, Callihan is going to end Tom Lawler. We'll see who will win out of that. And of course, we have the main event, ACH, Marco Stunt, Rich Swann going up against the Hart Foundation. I loved this match. For those who listened last week, I really enjoyed the PCO versus LA Park match, which should have been the main event. Like, a couple weeks on, I still think it should have been the main event. And I will mention, since I'm mentioning PCO, at a recent MLW taping is yet to be aired, he landed pretty hard after he fighting against Brody King. There's a video going around of him doing a senton all the way in the arena onto a table, like where Brody King was laying. Brody King moved out of the way, and PCO hit the edge of the table hard, right? And of course, PCO, the man is not human. He still managed to get the victory. Again, I just mentioned before with Brody King. Like, I don't know, it feels like they're a bit lukewarm with him. Like, they're giving him the victory over Tommy Dreamer. I don't know. I want him to be that big guy. But yeah, with PCO, the man's not human. I love this guy to death. Please don't die, PCO. Look after yourself. You are a treasure in MLW and all across the world. So we'll cut to the main event. So before, that was one of my favorite matches that I'd seen in the past few episodes of MLW Fusion. The Hart Foundation one takes the cake. And I will say as well, I mentioned previously that I've been wanting to see more tag teams in MLW. Granted, 1 hour showings on YouTube. Subscribe to MLW and watch it. You won't regret it. Now available on Fight TV if you're a part of that. But you know that the factions like the Dirty Blondes, like it feels like we haven't seen as much tag teams lately. We've had the Smash and Dash Connection, a couple more here and there. But yeah, honestly, it feels like it's just been the Lucha Brothers and the Hart Foundation. But don't get me wrong, I am not complaining about the Hart Foundation because this match showed us all anything. It's that these guys are the ones to watch, not just in MLW, but just in general. Teddy Hart is one of the best wrestlers in the world today. I'm not afraid to say it. He was amazing. in this match. Now, I'll go through all the members of the Hart Foundation. So we'll start with Brian Pillman Jr. He's a bit of an oddity to me, where, I don't know, he is in the best place he can to train. Like, he still feels a little green to me, where he's in the best place being looked after by Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Teddy Hart. They will take him far. They will get him trained up, and he will be one of the best that MLW has to offer. But in terms of his gimmick, I don't know. He comes off, I feel like he's trying, not decided what he wants to be, whether he wants to be like a kind of like a playboy where he comes out in the robe and stuff, or he wants to be crazy. Now, granted, I don't want him to be exactly like his dad, because there is only one Brian Pillman. But Brian Pillman Jr., that's a different story. And I do like that he's a little bit more deranged. I will say he's not intense. He's like crazy deranged. The kind that you want Dean Ambrose, like when Dean Ambrose was initially starting out after the Shield. I do want to see where he goes, but I don't know. He kind of sticks out to me at the moment. We've got Davey Boy Smith Jr., big powerhouse dude. He's a solid guy. There's not really much to say about him. Like, I do want to highlight him more, but it's kind of hard just because he's in the ring with Teddy Hart, and Teddy, he should have been signed to WWE years ago. Like, you've had other members of the Hart family. You've got like Natalia, a part of WWE, and everywhere else. Teddy should have been a part of that a long time ago, because the man, not only is he such a, like, his prowess as a technical wrestler worthy of the Hart name, but I'm going to call it, he's a springboard genius, because he's able to use the ropes anywhere, anytime, and make his moves all the more terrifying. Right? So this was a really good 3-on-3 match where the Hart Foundation, they went on to defeat ACH, Marco Stunt, and Rich Swann and stay undefeated. They have yet to be defeated in MLW. I totally can see it right now that they are going to defeat the Lucha Brothers for the tag titles. I'm calling it now, where as much as I would want to see LA Park and his son go for the belts, I feel like the way things are setting up, yeah, it seems like the Lucha Brothers are going to hang on for just a little bit longer, and then the Hart Foundation are just going to collide with them, and it's going to be amazing. But yeah, the team ACH, Stunt, and Swann was a really good combination. ACH and Swann, of course, have a lot of history with the Harts. Rich Swann is still trying to get back at Teddy Hart for giving him a concussion. They're really trying to drive that home. Like, they're really, like, to the point Matt Striker felt like he was kind of repeating it a lot during the match. But yeah, going aside from that, I had so much fun with this match. And I think the two people that highlight it for me, Teddy Hart and Marco Stunt. Now, Mr. Fun Size Marco Stunt, he's a newcomer to the land of MLW and to the wrestling scene. He was a part of All In, I believe. A couple other shows here and there. But he was there to get tossed around like a rag doll. Like, not even a rag doll. Like, he was there to showcase just how brutal the Hart Foundation can be. And he sold those guys like a mother. He was sublime. Now, granted, like, his name, Mr. Fun Size, because he's a small dude. Like, I haven't looked up the stats, but he is at the very least maybe 5 foot. He's a small guy, featherweight, very light, and you would expect, he's got the high flying moves, and you would expect him to use those tactics where the smaller guy is trying to be the underdog and get some impact on the big guy. You know, we've seen this with guys like Rey Mysterio have kind of conditioned us, like cruiserweights in general. They've conditioned us just with the type of offense that they'll use to try and bring the big guys to their knees or onto the mat where they can just pick them apart. With this match, like, Marco Stunt, he was able to get a few spots here and there, but he was there to be tossed around like a bitch, because there's really no other word for it. I'll highlight a particular spot where it looked like Marco Stunt was going to go, he was trying to reverse a move, like Teddy had him up in the air. It looked like he was going to go for a bulldog. We've seen it a dozen times, like, we've seen it hundreds of times by Rey Mysterio. But nope. Teddy Hart grabs him like he's going to do the master lock, flips him over his head really fast. Like, you had to really click on it and just like, wait, what happened? If you turned away, blink and you'll miss it. But he just slammed him into his mat like a reverse suplex. It was violent. It was ugly. And I loved it. It was so much fun. And just all throughout, again, they ended, I think he did a Canadian Destroyer. He hit Marco Stunt with a Canadian Destroyer off the top rope, assisted by Davey Boy Smith Jr. That didn't end the match, but it was one of those really big, holy crap spots. I will say as well, Rich Swann and ACH, you know that these guys are solid. They have such agility. Like Rich Swann, of course, part of the 205 Live at one stage before all the things happened with him. With all the guys here in this match, they've all had their checkered past, but I'd say that MLW has kind of been a great shelter for them and is helping them get a second chance in the wrestling world. So I'm really happy for this match and how it turned out. No matter what MLW seem to do, I will say, because the Hart Foundation, they're meant to be the heels, but everyone loves them. Like, everyone is chanting for Teddy, everyone is chanting for the Harts. I don't know, like, whether they're going to try and make them do something really depraved to try and get the crowd, like, away from them and start booing them. But I don't think they can avoid it. That everyone just loves the Hart Foundation. And again, I can totally see them being the tag champions in another couple months straight away, defeating Lucha Brothers. And of course, wishful thinking on my part, I can totally see them having a couple more members, and I know exactly who they should get. David Benoit, where the son of Chris Benoit, the older son of Chris Benoit, before he had a son with a previous woman, before he had his youngest son with Nancy. We won't get into, like, we all know the story, but one of the things that people don't really know is that David Benoit's kind of been trying to get into the wrestling scene for a little while now. It's been a will they, won't they, of course, because I would love to see the Benoit name being put up there with the wrestling greats. We can actually speak about it in more reverent tones again, because I'm not going to lie, like, Chris Benoit was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up. When he won the heavyweight championship in the triple threat match, WrestleMania 20, I cried. I'm not ashamed to admit it. And at the moment he and Eddie Guerrero had, that moment, we can never see it again on WWE programming, of course, because of what's happened. But yeah, I would love to see, like, the son shouldn't pay for his father's sins. And if he was ever going to jump into the wrestling scene, be a part of the Hart Foundation, because Canadian boys, they will look after him just like they're doing with Pillman Jr. And I can see the Hart Foundation just taking over MLW, taking over the world. Pay attention to these guys. I had a lot of fun with this. Again, it didn't change the format like it did last week, where they had the middle matches or the smaller matches going for longer. So the main event was the actual main event. I was really happy with that. So we have next episode, we have got LA Park. No, apologies. We've got the Professional Low Key defending his heavyweight championship against Daga. I am really terrified for this one because, like I said, last week we have the announcement that he is going to be, or that Daga got injured. He got an ear injury really severely. There was blood everywhere in the ring. Seen all the reports and stuff, but the taping is coming out next week. Really curious about this one. As I mentioned before, the Puma King is officially debuting. So like I said, I don't know what this was that he had his match with Martinez. Of course, the MLW Middleweight Championship will be defended. We have MJF going up against Jimmy Yuta and Jason Cade in a triple threat elimination match. And we have Marco Stunt, Mr. Fun Size, going up against Myron Reed. We'll see more of Mr. Fun Size, I'm sure. I had a lot of fun with MLW. One of the better episodes. If you're going to start your MLW journey, I feel comfortable saying you can start with this. Be introduced to the glory that is Teddy Hart and the Hart Foundation. Now, we move right along to Ultima Lucha Quattro. Part 2 has been released, and oh my god. For those of you who have been following my journey with the Lucha Temple, with Lucha Underground, I'm a real newcomer I'm a complete noob to Lucha. And after watching part 2 of this, the big WrestleMania style event for Lucha Underground, I need to watch all 4 seasons of Lucha all over again because I absolutely love this. We had part 1 last week where we had matches like Taya Mundo going up against Ricky Mundo. You had Killshot going up against Son of Havoc in a Mask vs. March match. And we had, of course, the Trios Tag Team Championships being defended. So we had only about 3 matches for part 1. So part 2, I was expecting a similar format. I thought we'd have a part 2 and a part 3. But nope. We got everything crammed into part 2. So big finale, part 2. I regret not watching all of this sooner. I loved every bit of this episode, right? So, cut to, right? We cut to Ultima Lucha Quattro. We get introduced back into the swing of things. We've got a promo backstage where Teo and Johnny open the show. They're talking about Johnny has got the gauntlet in his hands, the Gauntlet of Destruction. I mentioned a couple weeks. Move over, Floor Odinson. We have a new God of Thunder in town. He's playing air guitar with the gauntlet because, of course, he is. And he's saying like he wants Taya to join him ringside as he goes up against Matanza in his Sacrifice to the Gods match, saying that if something were to happen, just know that I love you. Very sweet. Very it's a very kind of contrived thing, but I do like that Taya and Johnny can kind of muck around, because they are both married in real life. I can they can muck around like that. So after Johnny has left, Taya is all alone in the locker room there, and after he said I love you, he's left. Someone else has said I love you. Taya hears a voice. She opens her locker, and it's Rosa, the doll of Ricky Mundo that she took after defeating him in a singles match where she squashed the crap out of him, chokeslammed him through a table. Yeah, so have you not seen Bride of Chucky? Have you not? Stay away from the doll. But no, clearly she hasn't, because she started talking to Rosa. Rosa said, "You're pretty and the perfect host." And then, of course, Rosa touches Taya, and the evil doll looks like it's possessed Taya. But we can't focus on that now. We have our next match, Phoenix going up against Dragon Azteca Jr. in a 2 out of 3 falls match. These guys chop the crap out of each other. I was really looking forward to this. I follow MLW, so I am familiar with Rey Fenix. Not as familiar with Dragon Azteca Jr., but because of all that's happened, I need to catch up on everybody because these guys put on a show. It should be noted that before this match started, they actually pointed out that Dragon Azteca Jr. has never won a match in the Lucha Temple yet. And it was a 2 out of 3 falls match. Did he win this match? Unfortunately, no. He still remains... he's still carrying that loss record. Can he get it up to the levels of Kurt Hawkins? That remains to be seen. I doubt that. But yeah, fast offense, fast and furious offense, straight up throughout. I love I don't know how to describe it, just like an elevated tilt-a-whirl DDT that Aztec did, not just once in the ring, but he did it on the outside of the ring. There were tables thrown around. These guys put on a hell of a show. Azteca hit a code red. Phoenix kicked out. Azteca, he did a springboard plunger on the Phoenix on the floor. I mentioned the table. He set up a table outside the ring and hit a German suplex on the inside. They basically, so I'll cover, I like to do play-by-play, but I should say Phoenix got the first pin. Azteca got the second. And it looked like Azteca Jr. was going to go away with the victory. But of course, and after Azteca got his pin, it was tied 1 apiece. We had Antonio Cueto come out of his office to say that the match has been great so far. Can I just point out, like, I'm new to Lucha, so I should point this out as well. The fact that Antonio Cueto tries to have casual conversation with the voice like this all the time, it takes some adjusting. I think it must be one of those things that I'll have to get used to. But yeah, he said, "Let's bring this match to the next level. False count anywhere." So these guys are trying to pin each other all around the ring. Phoenix nails Azteca with a chair. He grabs about 4 of them ringside. It looks like Azteca is going to win, like I mentioned. But Santos, Phoenix's former partner, tried to stop him from hitting Phoenix, saying, "Stop, you guys are friends. Why are you doing this?" It was really silly. And even the commentary was saying that, like, how stupid can you be? But it was enough for Rey Fenix to take advantage and get the victory. And of course, his soul has been taken. He's now the Dark Phoenix, so he does not care for Santos in any way. Santos is crying. She's run out of the Lucha Temple. We have no announcer. Or do we? And again, we have Antonio Cueto come out, and he's trying to say, like, "I've hired a new deal. It's really big." It's hard to take him seriously. I'm not going to lie. When he's trying not to be this big mythological presence, when he's just like, "So how was your day?" But he announces that who will fill in as guest ring announcer for the rest of the night? None other than Shaw Guerrero, the daughter of Eddie and Vicky Guerrero. It is so great to see a Guerrero in the Lucha Temple. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm new to the Lucha Temple. I'm well aware that Chavo's been there. But in my journey with wrestling, Chavo left WWE 2010, 2011, I'm going to say. And the Guerrero name's kind of just been a bit silent. Like, obviously, Chavo's gone to do some great things in other promotions like Impact. And he helped train the Netflix Glow Girls to be able to do what they do for their 2 seasons. So much like how the Guerrero family trained the original Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, Chavo took it upon himself to help train the Netflix actors. Some really sweet stuff there. But again, I'm saying that I haven't heard the Guerrero name being talked of in a while, aside from people paying respects to Eddie. So it's nice to see his daughter come out, and everything I could have pictured the daughter of Eddie and Vicky Guerrero to be, she was. Like, she had the Latino heat about her, and if you're worried about her sass, oh, don't worry, because no sooner was she introduced as the guest announcer when Famous B came out to interrupt her, and he said that he was the only one to do guest ring announcing and tried to shoo her away. But then, of course, what did she say? "Excuse me?" I was not expecting it. I should have. And I love the fact that it didn't feel forced or that she was trying to mimic her mum when she said it. It felt like the perfect amalgamation of, like, Eddie and Vicky both saying "excuse me" at the same time. It was really sweet. Like, I marked out so much. But she's saying, like, the Guerreros are one of the foundations of the Lucha Temple. Of course, she mentioned Hector, she mentioned Chavo, she mentioned Eddie, she mentioned her mum, which was really nice to see. And yeah, it looked like those guys were going to come to blows when from behind, Chavo Guerrero comes out to help his niece. And then Shaw comes out, she hits the 3 Amigos and Famous B in her father's honor. Chavo goes for the frog splash, and Famous B is left scurrying out of the Lucha Temple. I just wanted to focus on this particular because, again, I miss hearing the Guerrero name, and it felt like she was the brilliant commentator. I want to see more of her. That's pretty much all I can say. We'll go back to the action. You had the Mac defeating Mil Muertes in a death match. So he came in, he entered the temple with a casket that had deathmatch written on the cover. He dominated most of the match. Like, Willie Mack, like, there's a reason that he is now the NWA national champion, because he is got such a versatile offense that it really comes into play here. Mertz hit a face crusher onto one of the caskets before nailing the match with clotheslines. Like, it was a really big powerhouse match. We've got a lot of wrestling to cover, so I should probably try and condense this a bit. But I will say the Mac went over Will Mertz in the death match. Afterwards, Antonio Cueto said, I'm cutting ahead. The Mac dragged Mertz towards the casket ringside before toasting him with 2 beers and closing the casket, sending Mertz to his death. Will he get resurrected? I don't know. Again, resurrection, a thing with the Lucha Temple. Lovely to see. We cut to Antonio Cueto saying that Johnny Mundo shouldn't have had the gauntlet. He promised that Johnny would be sacrificed to the gods, where Matanza comes out wearing the sacrificial headdress and new gear. Matanza is looking fierce. And no sooner have we cut to that than we see the match between Johnny Mundo and Matanza, a sacrifice to the gods match. Johnny was successful in this match. It was a very, I'm a big Marvel nut and I'm a big comics guy. The fact that you can add this mythology to the Lucha Temple, I love this. So right from the jump, Johnny's grabs Matanza by the throat with the gauntlet. He sends him flying. He gets a few punches in, but Matanza's overpowering Johnny pretty quickly, gets him up in a torture rack, followed by deadlift German suplex. Like, he's suplex city for the most part. Matanza gets in the audience at one point, throws the gauntlet to the top of the temple where Johnny can't get it, and Johnny keeps trying to get the gauntlet so he can defeat Matanza. He's hitting with super kicks and just scurrying away. Of course, it's not doing much. Johnny flips Matanza off, runs across to one of the upper areas, jumps on the electrical box, and jumps towards where the glove was. He's really trying to get it, and Matanza cut him off and put his face in the wall. It was brutal. Matanza tried to powerbomb Johnny over the balcony, but Johnny used Matanza's shoulders, I should say, and climbed to where the glove was. As he tried to get the glove, Matanza managed to climb up and put Matanza through the ceiling of the entrance. And it looked like Matanza was going to claim victory, but the door opened and Johnny had the gauntlet. He finally got it on. And Johnny drops Matanza with a shot with the gauntlet. Matanza does hit the Wrath of the Gods, but Johnny kicks out several times before, once again, flipping off Antonio Cueto this time and hitting a flying punch off the top rope, pinning Matanza. Johnny Mundo has avoided being sacrificed. So what does this mean for Matanza? We don't know. Cut backstage, Johnny is run into Aerostar. Aerostar says that the gauntlet has been corrupting him, and while it helped him to defeat Matanza, it was making him a shell as the gods were trying to possess him. Johnny, I was really not sure, it would be like a cliffhanger for next season whether Johnny would actually hold on to the glove or the gauntlet, but no, he looked like he was willing to keep it, but he decided to take it off and give it back to Aerostar. Aerostar called him a good man. Johnny said that he wasn't a good man. We can really dive into that, but I'm not going to, because again, we have a lot of stuff to cover, guys. You had, of course, Pentagon Dark going up against Marty the Moth in a Cerro Nieto match to win the Lucha Underground Championship. Pentagon Dark pretty much beat the crap out of Marty the Moth. It was a great match by both guys, but early on, Marty was busted open within the first few minutes. These guys were chopping each other. Marty was able to hit a hip toss and send Pentagon into a table. Marty was bringing about kendo sticks. He brought a lunchbox out from under the ring. He pulled a fork out and busted Pentagon up. Man, that was I still cringe. Fork spots, I really cannot stand them. I don't know. It's just the viciousness about it. It's just crazy to see to me. But yeah, cut to Marty pulls a can of gasoline from under the ring and starts to pour Pentagon with gas. He gets a lighter. Of course, the fans are shouting out no as Marty's playing to the crowd. But Pentagon kicked the lighter from Marty's hand And because he was literally trying to kill him. He was actually trying to kill him, but Pentagon didn't give up. Marty tried to hit Pentagon with the barbed wire baseball bats, but Pentagon moved out of the way. Marty hit the ropes and the bat flew back and he hit himself in the face. All of this stuff amounted to the fact that towards the end, Pentagon grabbed Marty's arm. He's about to break it again, but Reclusa attacked and stopped Pentagon from doing it. So Reclusa is Marty's valet. As she's attacking, Vampiro left the announcer's booth and chased her off. The crowd was chanting for Pentagon as Vampiro handed the title to him. Vampiro looked a bit conflicted before low-blowing Pentagon. Both men started fighting. Pentagon was attacking when a mystery luchador ran down and nailed Pentagon with a chair. Vampiro started bowing down to him, and it said that this luchador was his master. The mystery luchador hit a shooting star press off the top rope into Pentagon on the floor. Vampiro followed the instructions of his master and put Pentagon into the ring as his master hit a corkscrew shooting star press. And no sooner did that happen, out comes Jake Strong, after all this carnage, out of nowhere, cashing in the Gift of the Gods Championship. We theorized this for quite a while now, with the new rulings about the Gift of the Gods Championship being essentially now like the Money in the Bank. Before, you could only you could announce it that you were gonna cash in, but you had to give the champion a week to prepare. Build up for the next episode naturally, but in this one, like now, just whenever. So Jake Strong came out and he said that Cueto said Strong could cash in whenever he wanted, and then of course his voice became a little bit demonic when he exchanged the title over. So we've been theorizing about what's exactly possessing Jake Strong. Is something going on there? We'll follow that in a second. Strong straight away broke Pentagon's ankle. Pentagon didn't give up. He didn't tap out, but he passed out. And pretty much straight away, we heard that, of course, that crunch that was jarring to me at first. But yeah, the referee stopped the match. Your new Lucha Underground champion, Jake Strong. We closed the show. Like, we've got our little end scene here. The show closed with Aerostar, Azteca Jr., and King Cuerno meeting up to discuss the Gauntlet of the Gods and how it needs to go back into hiding. Azteca took the gauntlet, and we saw that he gave it to Black Lotus. Lotus found Matanza and confessed that she now knew that it was him that killed her parents instead of Azteca. And Lotus then ripped out Matanza's heart, looking like he's essentially killed him. Azteca took the gauntlet back, saying that her parents could finally rest in peace. I briefly touched on the amulets last week. We have Jake Strong, who attacked Azteca Jr. He knocked him out, broke his ankle, and stole the gauntlet. And Strong said the gauntlet belonged to us in that demonic voice again. Strong started chanting and he slapped the bloodstained gauntlet against his own chest, like really getting into it. Johnny Mundo walked backstage. He tried to talk to Taya, but Taya's been possessed. She attacked him and claimed that she was God. Antonio Cueto came out. He was sitting in a limo with a mystery man from last season that shot Dario Cueto. They discussed that now all the gods have taken human form. Vampiro's master was in there, and they said something in some other language. They asked whose blood was on him, and they asked Strong whose blood was on him, and they said Matanza's. As Cueto looked up, he said that knowing that his son had died, a mysterious voice called Matanza a worthy host, but he said that the Order appreciated his sacrifice. Another member of the Order was revealed, the man in the limo. We've been theorizing this for a while, but we lean forward to see who is it, none other than Wade Barrett. He says that it's time to take over the world. And we then cut to a flashback from 1 year earlier when Antonio Cueto took Dario Cueto's key from him to unlock Matanza. As Antonio's left, Aerostar appeared, and he put the amulet from earlier around Dario's neck. So Dario has been resurrected, and we close the show with to be continued. This was incredible. I love the mythology around this whole promotion. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. I wish I got onto it so much sooner. So I like the fact that we have all these like godlike entities. I love the fact that you have your promotions that have your supernatural characters here and there, but for the most part, they don't really dive that deep with the supernatural elements. Lucha, they go 110%. There are gods in this. You sacrifice to the gods. You got the Gifts of Gods Championship. You got Antonio Cueto with his voice. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. I'm speechless. I'm absolutely speechless. So this was amazing. I could gush about this for hours on end, but I think we should probably cut back to Greg Unchained and see how he's going. And he's going to help us talk about all the other wrestling news. Greg, you there, mate?
I am here. Yes.
Ready to talk some wrestling news with me?
Yeah, I went to watch Ultima Lucha, and then the kids were being too noisy, so I decided to just play Red Dead Redemption and go hunting instead.
Well, so, don't put off Lucha Underground any longer. I've just been essentially gushing for a good 20, 30 minutes, what it feels like. So yeah, I highly recommend it. I need to binge it from the start and just, I want to be completely know everything about Lucha Temple for next season.
Yeah, well, I have a friend who is a super Lucha fan, and we're going to do a season recap to talk about this whole season. So that'll be a good resource for you to start with as well. But that's in the future. You're right. I'm here right now to talk news. Just quickly, though, there might not be another season of Lucha Underground. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing there might not be another one.
Left it on a cliffhanger, like some great shows out there. I don't know. Yeah,
they do that. They do that to try to entice the network in. Like, well, you got to find out what happens, right? You can't just leave fans hanging. No, networks don't give a crap. If they don't want it, they don't want it.
Fox, Firefly, I'm looking at you. It still hurts.
Yeah. Oh no, you know what one still hurts me?
What?
My Name is Earl.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember what network it was, but on My Name is Earl, like they ended it, like I don't even know if the kid was Earl's kid or if it was the other guy's kid. I can't remember. But yeah, it was very frustrating that like, how has that never become like a Netflix movie, right? This is for another podcast. Anyway.
Absolutely. Sorry, guys.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Sorry to interrupt the podcast, B+ players, but I just need to take a second to tell you about Threadbox. Threadbox is a subscription service for men that makes looking good easier than ever before. Just fill out a few questions to start building your style profile, and from there you will be paired with a stylist who will send you new threads once a month, so you don't have to worry about checking the stores and finding new clothes. It's like having a personal shopper and stylist at your fingertips, and you just sit back, relax, wait for your awesome new gear to arrive in the mail. They sent me a box this month. I got a new pair of jeans. I got 2 shirts. You can check out the unboxing video on the Facebook page. And the best part about it is you can get in touch with your stylist by email at any time. So if you need new singlets, if you need new long sleeves, if you need new shoes, if there's something specific you want, you just let them know what you need and they'll tailor the box to your specific requests. It's a completely personalized service available on any budget. You'll always get way more value than you pay for because Threadbox work with all the best brands. Boxes start from just $40, and if you use our code, the B+15 at checkout today, you're going to get 15% off your first box. So what are you waiting for, man? Like, if you want to look better with less effort, head to threadbox.com.au and use the code the B+15 to get your box today. So let's go from one thing that's not relevant to wrestling to another thing that's not relevant to wrestling. Politics. Linda McMahon.
Yeah.
Linda McMahon.
Yeah, I was really surprised when you told me about this one. Like, I had to double check. Like, are you sure we're a wrestling podcast? Because we're talking about Linda McMahon reportedly being a top candidate for promotion within Donald Trump's administration.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's Linda McMahon, and she's a McMahon, and it's Donald Trump, and he is a WWE Hall of Famer, so...
By default, I understand, yeah.
This is wrestling news. This is wrestling news, right? Also up for consideration, IRS.
Mm.
Yeah, they're thinking of having him head up the real-life IRS.
Oh, dear.
I also hear that Ted DiBiase is in contention for treasurer.
You should probably quit while you're ahead, mate. Just,
He's fantastic with money, I'm telling you. Let me tell you something. I know a thing or two about money and Ted DiBiase. He's brilliant.
I will say as well, with all the controversy surrounding the Trump administration, Linda's been very quiet. You don't hear any things like, of course, we mentioned her with her, the fact that she's McMahon, but the fact that she's kind of kept herself under the radar and she's done her duty. Yeah, it looks like she might potentially be rewarded at some point.
Yeah, well, she's good at her job. So what she does is she heads up the Small Business Authority, and she's used to dealing with small businesses. She ran a small business, turned it into an empire. So she was a great pick for the job, and it was just hilarious to have a McMahon in the cabinet. And she may be moving up and becoming, what was the role that they're considering for her now? They're considering, it's a higher position, Commerce Secretary.
Yeah, Commerce Secretary Finances. Yeah.
So the one that I joked should be Ted DiBiase. But yeah, so Linda McMahon might be getting a higher job. But that's all. Like, we don't really know all that much about it. It was just an interesting thing that crossed the feed. Now let's go into more non-wrestling related news and talk MMA. Brock Lesnar has been called out.
Again, Greg, we should really say, like, are you sure this is a wrestling podcast?
This is a wrestling podcast. It's related. Okay. Brock Lesnar is a wrestler as well, but he's been called out by Daniel Cormier, who is a potential wrestling commentator. The world is fucked.
Yes.
This is wrestling in 2018. We talk more about politics and cage fighting than we do about wrestling.
Yeah, but for those of you guys who didn't watch the fight that Daniel Cormier had last week where he defended both his UFC championships, they asked him about WWE superstar Brock Lesnar, and he said that he'd love to have that belt around his waist and make sure he'd bring it come the next match, potential match, I should say, next year.
Yeah, so this is obviously leading to a unification Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania.
Yes, naturally.
So I reckon that around Royal Rumble time, around January, February, that's when Brock's cleared to fight by the USADA or whatever they call it. So I imagine that he's going to lose the Universal Championship to Daniel Cormier in the Octagon in a unification match there. And then Daniel Cormier will come to WrestleMania and defend against Brock Lesnar. And Brock Lesnar will be the underdog trying to get back his title.
Paul Heyman will be out just driving home the fact that Brock Lesnar is this beast once more. Oh, dear. Yeah. Be like Dan Severn once again, UFC and WWE championships, both on the same man again.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. Daniel Cormier might come to Fox as a commentator for SmackDown. I don't know how you're going to go from calling out Brock Lesnar to becoming a commentator. Bit of a shift there, DC.
Yeah. A lot of shifts going around, like especially with a man who's also going into commentary as well. We'll talk about him later.
We'll talk about him right now. CM Punk.
You want to CM Punk? Yeah. You might as well talk about him now. Yeah.
Right now.
So CM Punk is reportedly, he's not going back into the Octagon once more, but he is going to be joining ringside for Cage Fury Fighting Championships as a commentator.
Yeah. You know what? I honestly would like, I hope he does well. And I hope he gets called up to the main card to commentate UFC, because I feel like he and Joe Rogan would have a great antagonistic relationship.
Oh, no, without a doubt.
Because Joe Rogan has dissed CM Punk so much on the podcast. Like, just talking about how bad his footwork is, about how easy it would have been to escape when he was in that hold on the ground. Like, just so much trash talk to CM Punk and how he just doesn't belong there. So I think that having Joe Rogan and CM Punk as the commentators on an actual UFC pay-per-view would be highly entertaining.
And I also, just to point out as well, because I believe Joe Rogan actually had DDP on his podcast at one stage, and he's never been the most he's always been outspoken, but he's never been the best advocate for professional wrestling. And then he has DDP on his podcast, and he is just giving him all this respect. He's not saying one bad thing about professional wrestling. Like, he's just like, when confronted, he's just like, no, I didn't say anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
No. I think Joe doesn't disrespect professional wrestling. He just doesn't understand. Like, it's not his thing. But he's had a few wrestling fans on and stuff, and they've always... And he's had Josh Barnett on as well. And
that's true.
Yeah, and he's always been respectful about it. He's just like, it's just not for me. Like, I don't get it. And there was a whole bit where you can look it up on YouTube where he talks about like the figure four leg lock, and he's like, what? no, that's hurting the other guy. What are you doing? Like, this is ridiculous. Why is that guy acting like he's in pain? He's on top right now. And it's very entertaining to see him break it down from an actual MMA perspective. But CM Punk is joining Cage Fury Fighting Championships as the commentator. Now, I have a theory on CM Punk. This is one of the main reasons I wanted to be on the show.
You were very curious and to talk about this one, yeah.
Yeah, so I think CM Punk is gearing up for a return to wrestling.
Who with, specifically?
I don't know. But what I do know is for the last 5 years, he's been gone. And have you heard other wrestlers talk about him?
You hear the few here and there, but nothing concrete.
You get stuff in the dirt sheets and whatnot, but you never have anyone who is actually on the level where CM Punk could potentially come back into a program with them. You know, never someone big. You never hear someone big.
No.
But just the last 2 weeks, you've got all the best in the world stuff that Shane McMahon is doing. Saying,
yeah.
So he's on WWE TV. He won the World Cup, which featured only Americans, and he claims to be the best in the world as a result. And it's getting huge CM Punk chants from the crowd, which they had just stopped CM Punk chanting like 2 years ago, you know? So, like, they did it for 3 years after this bloke was gone, and then, you know, when it's finally stopped, you specifically bring it back. I don't know, it feels to me like there's something there. But not only that, on the Jericho cruise, both Jericho and Cody name-dropped CM Punk because they were talking about, you know, it went from a discussion about who's the leader of the Bullet Club.
Yeah.
And they were talking about, you know, it's ridiculous to think that grown men need to have a leader. And Cody said, you know how you know someone's not the leader? Like, there's this concept in wrestling of being the locker room leader, right? We've all heard it.
Yeah.
Undertaker's a locker room leader. Roman Reigns is a locker room leader.
Here, Tommaso Ciampa is the locker room leader for NXT at the moment.
Yeah, right, exactly. But, so what Cody said, though, was anyone who says they're a locker room leader, that guy is definitely not a locker room leader. And then Jericho brings up, so this, you can hear all this on the Jericho podcast. Jericho brings up, hey, remember that meeting we had one time in WWE where CM Punk was like, as a locker room leader? And Cody was like, look, I didn't want to name names, but yeah, he's done that multiple times, right? So they start sort of trash talking CM Punk a little about how he says he's a locker room leader, and that's how you know he's not, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just to me, guys on this level saying his name, to me, it says that he's been in touch with a few people. He's toying with the idea of a return. So now the things are going to start. They're starting to work angles in podcasts and online and on Twitter and stuff like that because it's out there that he's thinking of coming back.
Absolutely. I will say, I do remember from a few months ago that when interviewed, he actually said no one's really come up to him and asked him specifically, like they've kind of said like, oh, if you want, you can come and do this thing. But he said that no one's actually come in and saying, look, we'll pay you this much. If you can come on, that'd be fantastic. Will you be able to show up? So if someone's given him a definite offer, I can see it happening. I don't know, with WWE, maybe, but I would like to see it more on the New Japan side, more on the indie side if he were to make a return.
Yeah, see, I don't think anyone's necessarily made a big offer or anything. I think that what's happened is he's sort of said to a few friends, you know what, I've softened. I might come back. I'm thinking about it. I'm looking at what's going on. There's a lot of stuff that's interesting. I think it's been something like that, and the word has gotten around, and so WWE are like, well, let's start putting some stuff on telly to make him, you know, to make the crowd want him back so that we can go to him and be like, look at this thing we've got for you. Or let's have, you know, and I think the same thing is happening on the indies with Jericho and that. Like, him showing up in New Japan to attack Jericho the same way Jericho has been attacking everyone would be amazing.
The crowd would go unglued. It would be incredible.
Yeah. And, I mean, then there's also the rumors of the new promotion with JR and Jericho, right?
Yes.
And they could have sent out a feeler to CM Punk. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities.
I do like that idea, actually, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities. I'm going way off the run sheet here, but let's talk about that one. No. JR, his contract. He's no longer going to do the AXS TV New Japan commentary.
That's right. I believe he's still signed. He did a new deal with WWE. His current contract's going to end, I believe, in March. Yeah. March 31st. Yeah,
so just after WrestleMania, his contract with WWE ends, which, you know, would tie in well to this whole new promotion idea. But the interesting thing to me is WWE, he's under WWE contract right now, but WWE were letting him do the New Japan commentary, and since New Japan sold out Madison Square Garden with Ring of Honor, WWE have pulled that and said, you can't do it now. You can't do AXS TV.
Now they're getting a bit nervous. Like you had last week, I mentioned like New Japan has been putting out feelers to some of WWE talent. Potentially, we didn't hear names, but you had guys like Shinsuke Nakamura, Luke Gallows, Kyle Anderson being mentioned. Just like it seems like there's a bit of rivalry happening over the past couple of weeks. Yeah,
well, there's a lot of guys that haven't really been over to Japan who would do really good things, and I imagine would possibly want to. I mean, you know, someone like Seth Rollins would probably mouthwater at some of the matches he could have. Now, I don't think Seth Rollins is going to go, but maybe someone who's being a little more underutilized, like well, I don't want to say Kurt Hawkins either because he's got the losing streak happening.
When he finally breaks that, like, what are we up to now? It's been at least a couple years at least.
He's almost at 300 losses in a row.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's getting big because they count his house show losses too. But anyway, yeah, there are some guys on the roster though that I'm sure would love to get over to Japan. So, I mean, someone like Rusev could do amazing things in New Japan.
He could, absolutely. We are going to mention him as well, actually. Have you heard the latest about him maybe going up against Hulk Hogan?
Right, he challenged Hogan on Twitter, didn't he?
He did. Hulk Hogan, after his hosting, quote-unquote, a Crown Jewel, he came out for about 5-10 minutes. He said the brothers, he said the Jacks, and he was never to be seen again.
Yeah.
But afterwards on Twitter, he said that he wants to cut a bit of weight, look to try and avoid looking like he can squash the rest of the locker room. And Rusev's kind of hit him up on Twitter and said, when you step back in the ring, like hit me up on the first opportunity you get.
Has his license to say brother not been revoked?
It doesn't seem to.
I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Hulk.
Like, it feels like the bridge has been mended. For the most part in WWE's mind, but obviously not with a few of the wrestlers still and with the fans.
Yeah,
but
in WWE's mind, but you're not going to see him doing a segment with Titus O'Neil or Kofi Kingston anytime soon. You know what I mean?
Definitely not.
I don't think any bridge has been mended. I don't think that dude regrets anything. I mean, when he came back and did the whole speech thing to the locker room, he was talking about just make sure you don't get recorded. That wasn't the point, Hulk. Like, talk about missing the point. How can you be in the middle of that and still miss the point? I don't understand it. But yeah, so how much of this is just Rusev going into business for himself, though, you think? Just like sending out a cheeky tweet, just like, I wonder what happens if I do this.
I can see I can see that happening. Of course, Rusev Days kind of calmed down a little bit. So, of course, like we try and keep it alive here at the B+, but for the most part, yeah, he's had his feud with Aiden English, and now he's kind of, I don't know what's going on with him. Like, he might be looking for bigger and better things at this point.
Yeah, well, I think that I think if it does come to fruition and we do get Hogan versus Rusev at WrestleMania 35, I hope it's a squash match in Rusev's favor, and he can then brag about beating Hulk Hogan. You know what I mean?
With the whole the classic thing of you had the big American guy against the foreign threat, and with everything that's going on, I can totally see like a passing of the torch, a changing of generations with Rusev defeating Hulk Hogan and maybe trying to give him a little bit more credibility again and just putting over Rusev the fact that, yeah, again, he put over Hulk Hogan.
You want to know something I would love to see? It's never going to happen, and we'll get to why in just a moment. We're doing real good with these segues, just saying.
Yeah, we're flying.
We're killing it. But, no, for real. What I would love to see happen would be turn the trope on the head. So you mentioned the whole foreign invader thing, right? Or like,
yeah,
when Sergeant Slaughter turned his back and became the supporter of Iran, right? And Hulk Hogan's the big hero, the big real American. It'd be real nice to have him try to do that real American shtick against Rusev, who Rusev hasn't been like the Bulgarian brute guy in a long time. But you can have Hulk Hogan come out and be like, someone's been talking about me on Twitter, brother, and have him do his whole thing about Rusev being a foreigner and I'm a real American and you can't say those kinds of things about me here. And have Rusev just come out and just be like, what are you talking about? I've lived here for years. I'm going to crush you. It's going to be great. And Lana can have her American accent now. She can stop the whole Russian bullcrap. And they just flip it on the head and just have him destroy Hulk Hogan and have him be like, I'm not a foreigner. I live here. Like, what is wrong with you? You're a racist old fool. I would love that. It would show so much strength by WWE to do that, to turn it into an angle. But
absolutely.
But they won't. There's no way they'll do that. But if they did that, I would be like, absolutely, like, take my money.
I remember a little while ago, like, Cody was being interviewed by Sam Roberts, and they were saying how there were comedy sketches going around about how the Goldust persona would work in 2018, like how he's just like he flaunts his sexuality a bit and like just tries to make everyone uncomfortable. Like, but how the gag was in 2018, everyone's kind of fine with it now. It's not he's not really the bizarre one anymore. It's just like, okay.
Yeah, well, it'd be Exolicious, right? In Lucha Underground.
Exactly.
or even Ricky South a little bit. If you're familiar with PWA over here.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Yeah, Ricky South does. I mean, he does a bit where he puts the guy's head down his tights, you know, to get the powder, like Denshiko Dino over in Japan in DDT. But yeah, we're getting far away from it. But let's talk about why WWE won't do something like that. Gail Kim says WWE is racist.
Yeah, she's had a bit of a Twitter war, I should say, with a few people, and she did mention that she thought that WWE as a whole were racist. Now, she has gone on to say she did issue a statement following her numerous tweets. I might as well read the whole thing here. She's saying, after speaking with a couple of friends recently regarding my comments, I had my eyes open to the fact that my words chosen to deliver my message could have been managed a bit more thoughtfully. She wanted the one word of my statement that I regret using is the term they. So essentially she's saying the higher ups and not saying the whole of WWE.
Yeah, so she came out to apologize, to be like, look, there are people who work there that are good people. You know, she did the Donald Trump thing. Some of them, I'm sure, are good people. But... you know, in a very different context. But yeah, so she's saying that there are some people that work there that are good, but it's sort of a fish rotting from the head situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, I mean, look, at a certain point, I think the question you can ask a lot of the time is, are they racist or are they old, right? Like, was my grandma racist or was she just my grandma, you know?
Yeah, like I can see that. Honestly, it's just the generational thing.
It's a tricky question because it's like, no, like she was racist, and that's not a question for me to answer anyway, right? Like a person of color would not be like, it's your grandma, she's still fucking racist, bro. Like, but yeah, I guess it's one of those things. But Gail Kim was on the receiving end of it personally, and she's not the only one. There have been quite a few people who have spoken out about this recently. Rodney Mack is one who recently I think it was on a PWI podcast. I can't remember what podcast it was on, but Rodney Mack was on a podcast and he was talking about, you know, again, it's a lot of this is coming from the Hulk Hogan thing, and people are just being like, yeah, no, of course he's fine there because everyone at the top is racist. You got Hayes still running around and stuff, you know? So,
yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, Rodney Mack has jumped on in support, and Jazz as well has said that yeah, you know, if you're a person of color, you don't really get a chance. But then, I don't know, I look at someone like Titus O'Neil, and Titus O'Neil is actually probably the first African-American superstar I look at where I'm like, they actually portray him like a full person.
Oh yeah, he's become an ambassador definitely for WWE.
Yeah. But, I mean, Rodney Mack specifically pointed out New Day as like an example of like the black jester trope, like they're out there dancing, singing and dancing for masters' entertainment. But I feel like that's just them being them.
Yeah, like we got like guys like the New Day, of course. Like I think it may have seemed like that initially, but we've kind of grown accustomed to the New Day at this point, and just like it's just those guys having fun.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it definitely started in a weird place when they were like the preacher kind of weird, but it definitely became them taking control and just doing what they wanted, and then asking for forgiveness later. And now they have pretty much full control from what it seems like. Like when you watch like the Table of Three and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I don't know. How much do you think there is to it? How much do you think WWE is racist, and how much do you think it's just sort of old-timey mentality and sort of unfortunate situations?
I think it's more in the fact that Vince McMahon's stronghold over the company. Like they're still set in a lot of the old ways, and they're changing. WWE is changing. They've got the women's evolution going on at the moment. Like they've a lot of things happening all around the world in terms of the professional wrestling industry. I feel like there's changes being made. It's slow going, but the people who are kind of stuck to the old ways, they are in those higher positions and they'll get there. But it's just, yeah, you still see some checkered history kind of rearing its ugly head.
Yeah. Well, I want to put out an open invitation right now from the B+. We're both white fellas, so realistically, I mean, we'd need to get someone else's perspective on this. So, if anyone out there is a person of color and feels strongly one way or the other, yes, WWE's racist, no, they aren't racist, or maybe you have a more nuanced opinion and it's not black or white to you. If you have an opinion and you want to let us know, we would love to have you come on the show and talk to us about it, because it's a pretty hot button topic. And, you know, a lot of people are talking about it. Like I said, Gail Kim, Rodney Mack, Jazz, a lot of people are talking about it. So I think it'd be really interesting if someone wants to come on, shoot us a message, the b+@unchained.media, and let us know, and we can have a chat, because I would definitely be interested to hear what someone thinks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We should move on to the next topic now.
Yes.
What should we have?
Well, we've jumped all over the place, so let's rewind to what was kind of the WWE news headline. Roman Reigns, it's just a quick one because there wasn't a lot of information, but Roman Reigns has begun treatment for his leukemia.
Yeah, so they have actually, obviously there've been talks of like, okay, he's starting treatment, when will he get back in the ring? But of course no one's giving a date, because that's a long way off at this point, and everyone's of course just wishing him a speedy recovery to look after his health and be with his family. Yeah,
especially the second time around. From what I'm reading, it could be years, and he's probably going to lose all his muscle mass. He's probably going to lose all his hair. You know, he's not going to want to come out without his hair. I mean, he is the wet hair guy. Like, that's his thing. So I would say we're easily looking at 3 to possibly 5 years without Roman Reigns at this point, which, I mean, a year ago, if you asked me, I wouldn't have thought that was bad. But when you look at the WWE landscape, he is actually instrumental. You got to look at it and go, wow, Roman Reigns is actually missed, like, very much so.
But before all this, like, obviously, if you asked us like a year ago, we'd just like, Roman Reigns off TV, oh, fantastic. But at the same time, I can't remember, I believe it was someone who tweeted this, and it kind of stuck with me. But the fact that the man Joe Anoa'i is the hero that WWE wanted to try and make Roman Reigns to be, and like all along, the real man was this sweet, endearing babyface, and could just everyone's got behind him now.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, it shows that wrestling fans don't really know what the fuck we're talking about, because we don't see every aspect of it. We don't see that backstage stuff. So there's talk now that Braun was supposed to possibly be the replacement, right? But then all of a sudden they put the title on Brock, and we're like, why have they put the title on Brock? And now there's word coming out. There's 2 potential reasons we're hearing. Braun may have injured knees.
Yes, on last week's Raw, like when he had to chase around Baron Corbin, he looked a little bit wobbly-legged, and it's been reported by Dave Meltzer saying like, oh, his knees are probably fucked a little bit.
Yeah. But then there's other stuff coming out that he kind of doesn't have the right attitude that they're looking for. Sometimes he's late to shows, sometimes he leaves early. He doesn't necessarily put in all the stuff that they like. Like, so WWE like the face of the company to be a ridiculous Superman like John Cena, like Roman Reigns, who is perfectly professional at all times and never makes a mistake. Those people are hard to come by.
Diamonds in the rough, definitely.
Yeah. Especially in an industry like wrestling. I mean, you work with wrestlers. Do you know anyone? Not to throw shade on the Australian industry, but
no. I
mean, just in life, those people that are like, I'm going to show up early, I'm going to leave late, I'm going to always be well dressed, always be polite and nice. Like, not like these. You can't snap at a fan at 4 a.m. in the airport who wants your autograph as much as you want to. You know, Tommaso Ciampa could not be Roman Reigns.
Oh God, no.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a different kind of species, and they don't breed them. There's no factory you can go to get a John Cena, Roman Reigns type person. They're very rare.
They train these guys to be actors. They train them to be these TV stars and to be their own managers and look after themselves and be their own travel agents. It's to get all of these things naturally very hard to come by.
Yeah. And I don't know, the whole putting the title on Brock because Braun may not be ready, whether it's his health or whether it's his attitude, it seems like Brock has become this begrudging, belligerent, almost sort of break glass in case of emergency option.
Yeah, I see that happening, especially with again with the UFC news and with their potential match going up around about the same time as the Royal Rumble. I can see why they chose Brock.
Yeah, to me, I think that in the future, like, we're unkind to Brock right now. And this is another one of those situations where I'm like, okay, so looking at the Braun Strowman thing, looking at the rumors there, and looking at what we know now about Joe Anoa'i and how wrong we all were.
Yes.
I look at it and I just say, look, there's obviously things we do not know. And I'm wondering if maybe in 5 years, 10 years, we're going to look back at this time of Brock Lesnar was the savior who carried WWE, even though he only carried them once every 3 months when he decided to show up. But he really carried, because it does make it special. It does make the championship special. I have always said that.
I should point out as well, like with his new contract, he had, obviously we don't know the full story yet, but it's allegedly he's only been scheduled for 2 matches. So he got one at Royal Rumble and the other one's to be determined. So of course we have the AJ Styles match coming up soon, but
the Survivor Series match and then one other. Yeah, it could be Rumble, could be Mania. We don't know. Yeah, I think it'll hold out till Mania, and I think we'll get the Braun crowning moment then.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the match at, what was it called? Crown Jewel, which I still haven't watched, but from what I've read, he kicked out of one extra F5 than Roman Reigns did. So they tried to make it look like he went down, like he didn't go down easy, but it was kind of a squash match anyway. It's one of those weird, it's sort of this formula that they have with Brock Lesnar. But when I say Brock Lesnar is going to be looked at as the savior, I mean, like, if it turns out that Braun Strowman isn't the guy and he's kind of got an attitude, which when I met him in Melbourne, I did not get the impression at all. I thought he was one of those dudes that's just like, because he came out, he was getting a tattoo, and there were like 10 of us outside the tattoo parlor who stalked his Instagram story like crazy people. And he came out of the tattoo parlor, like when he realized there were fans there, when Ruby Riott and that, they didn't want to interact with fans, but because they were there, they didn't post about it. But they were like, oh, Braun, there's people here to see you. Like, I heard Ruby say that to him, and Braun comes out and he just walks straight out the front of the tattoo parlor and he just goes, "Who wants photos?" Right? Like, he was so jovial, so happy, just so accommodating, like happy to talk to everyone, happy to meet everyone. It was fantastic.
Did you end up getting those hands, like with that tattoo that he allowed you to get, have an imprint of his hand?
I have these hands, and I'm gonna get them. Yep. I am going to get these hands to commemorate my trip to Melbourne to watch the WWE, but it's got to wait until like after birthdays and Christmas and all this sort of stuff. But it is going to happen. Because originally there was a guy online who said, oh yeah, I'll pay for it if you're going to get it done. And I'm like, all right, buddy, let's do it then. And then he disappeared and stopped responding to my messages. So I'm like, you know what? I still want to get it done because it's a freaking awesome story. So I'm going to get it done, but it's got to wait until after Christmas and all that sort of stuff.
Naturally.
Yeah. But going back to Raw, there was something else that you wanted to touch on with Raw.
Just a little brief thing that caught my eye. The fact that WWE Monday Night Raw, the overruns are finally coming to an end where they're actually cracking down on the 3-hour time slot. So, yeah.
Praise the old gods and new.
The fact that, like, because it seems like it's just been a weekly thing that they just run a bit over time, and just of course, like, you had All In, which they were, like, they had to speed up their main event, like, really speed it up because a couple matches may or may not have gone over longer than they should have.
It's a running joke with the B Plus when the guys are recording and I'm not on the podcast, when Mikey and Jay or Mikey and CJ are doing their thing and they're recording the podcast. And I come in to check and I'm like, they've been going for longer than an hour. These shows are meant to go for an hour. And I'll just start typing incessantly in the chat. I'll just start going, Marty, go home. Go home, Marty. Marty, it's 10 minutes. The lights are going to go out. Go home. Lights out on the Bucks. Go home. And I just start typing it until they finally wrap up the show. Yeah, but no, it's really good to know that Raw is not going to run overtime anymore because it's terrible when that happens. Like, so 3 hours is enough.
Absolutely. They should, like, if anything, like, should condense it further, and, like, NXT, I'd gladly see like more hours being dedicated to NXT, but that's a discussion for another podcast.
Yeah. I want NXT to have 30 hours a week on the network. Some NXT stars got married this week.
They did. We're killing it with the segues. I'm really impressed. We had Roderick Strong and Marina Shafir. They
one of the 4 horsewomen, of course.
One of the 4 horsewomen. Yeah, definitely. We should point that out. They got married this week, and we also had Ember Moon marrying as well. She had a Harry Potter themed wedding.
Yeah, I saw Snape in her wedding party. I like it looked just like Professor Snape. I'm like, damn, that looks like a fun wedding to be at.
It's one of those, like, before you meet your partner, just like, this is how I want my wedding to be, and they actually did it.
Yeah, like, you gotta put that, if that's the kind of wedding you want, that needs to be upfront in your Tinder profile. Like, if you don't want a Game of Thrones / Harry Potter combined wedding, swipe left.
Like, I'm planning my engagement at the moment. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I should have organized this stuff years in advance, saying, look, you knew this when you met me, we're gonna crack out the cauldrons, let's have a Harry Potter night. Yeah,
see, I can't do that because I met my partner when we were in high school, and so there's been a lot of, changing tastes and things over the years, but I have always been a wrestling fan, so if I said to her, look, I'm walking down the aisle to, or you're walking down the aisle to Stone Cold's, shattered glass and stuff, she wouldn't be surprised, I don't think. But yeah, no, so congratulations to Roddy and Marina, congratulations to Ember Moon and Matthew Palmer, her new husband. I guess she's
nice to have a bit of wholesome news around on the podcast.
Ember Palmer. That's an interesting name. She's no longer Ms. Moon, she's Mrs. Palmer. I wonder if she'll have 5 daughters. It's too much?
That's a bit, it's a bit in-house or just, yeah.
Inappropriate. So Stephanie McMahon says that WWE could be bigger than Disney one day.
Yeah, you really wanted to touch on this one, and I can't dispute you, just because she's come out, recently spoke at a summit in Portugal, and she said 10, 20, 30 years from now, she said there's no reason that WWE can't be as big or even bigger as Disney.
Right, so the market caps at the moment, WWE is worth $7.1 billion, which, I mean, if you had have told anyone that in the 80s, like, they would be like, you're an insane person.
Yeah.
Right? So WWE has come a long way. So let's start there, first of all. And
naturally,
Disney is worth $157 billion. Disney currently own Star Wars. They own Marvel.
They bought the rights to Fox again and just...
Yeah, they own the network that WWE is going to be on. A lot of people have talked about, like, Disney's probably going to buy WWE one day.
The mouse will rule the world.
Yeah, which, I mean, good on them. Good on them. Could you imagine a WWE Hall of Fame at Disney World? But Steph...
It would be, yeah.
But Steph puts those rumors to bed. She's like, no, the mouse is not going to buy us. We're going to buy them. And you know what? A lot of people... I've seen so many people talking about it online being like, how stupid is she? She's so dumb. Disney are the biggest thing. Rah. You know what? All empires fall.
Yes.
All empires fall. And good for you. Like, having a goal like that keeps you... Like, because, I mean, the McMahons are some of the most successful people on the goddamn planet.
For a reason, absolutely.
Yeah, and for a reason. And you know what sets them apart? Is you sit there and say, oh, there's no way I could ever buy Disney. Where she's like, no, we could be bigger than Disney. Absolutely. That's what sets her apart, right? She may be delusional, but you gotta see delusional shit in order to make shit happen, right? Like, Thomas Edison was delusional when he thought he could invent a light bulb. But then he did it. Not saying she's Thomas Edison, but I mean...
No.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that McMahons don't lack, it's craziness and, aspiration. So, good on Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, I have the, despite whatever, racism or other ridiculous things, that they have flaws. They absolutely have flaws. They are human. But they are people to look up to, in a sense, because talk about a family that's come from, I mean, Vince McMahon grew up in a trailer park.
Yeah.
With a dad who was an absolute carny.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he was a carny too, and then he's turned it into one of the most legitimate businesses. So like, it's absolutely fantastic. And I think when I heard that, I had the opposite reaction to everyone else. Everyone else was like, "Oh, she's crazy." Where I was like, "You go, girl, get it, buy Disney." Why not?
Yeah, Obviously, just have that goal for yourselves, and who knows, maybe like 5-10 years down the line, we might be saying a different tune.
Yeah, absolutely could. Because like I said, all empires fall. So anyway, that does it for WWE news. I've only got 3 non-WWE items to talk about.
Yeah, it's very WWE heavy this week, I'm not going to lie.
Well, I mean, they dominate the news cycle for the most part. It's hard not to talk about them. But on WrestleMania weekend, big show going down. It's a 2-day event. It's called Culture Clash. Have you seen this one?
I have, yes. So there's a 2-night event coming around WrestleMania weekend. House of Glory have announced that Culture Clash 19 will feature promotions from all around the world competing against each other. You got stars from US, Japan, Canada, UK, I believe Mexico. Yeah, all the countries are joining.
So Impact Wrestling are the headline, it looks like. So they'll probably be representing the United States, even though they're now based in Canada. We do know that Anthony Corelli, also known as Santino Marella, his Destiny Wrestling, which is also an affiliate of Impact, will be signed on to represent Canada.
Yep.
I believe they said they have Fight Club Pro representing the United Kingdom and IPW also from the United Kingdom. So my big question is, if you could send one Australian promotion to represent us, just one, who do you send?
Like, AWF, you naturally think that just because they encompass us all as a whole. But I don't know. I think that's just more accounting for taste. Like, I would love to see MCW guys go over and show what the rest of what we have to offer. My
initial thought was MCW as well. That was my initial thought. But then I thought, what about World Series Wrestling?
Yeah.
Right? That counts.
Absolutely. And that, of course, like, and granted, they go to different places, but like, just grab all the talent from all the states.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they could take guys like Mick Moretti. They could take people like Slex, and we could say they're representing World Series Wrestling. I'm hoping something like that happens. I definitely want Australia to have some representation in Culture Clash. And I'm leaning on World Series Wrestling. I might have to send a message to Adrian. We had a good chat the other day. Maybe he'll be receptive if I send him a message.
Absolutely.
But something else that I have to message him about, Joey Ryan injured his boob.
King of Dong style seems to have, again, torn his pec muscle. A lot of people are joining the pec injury club. We've got Taylor King, child star over here in Australia. You got Triple H at Crown Jewel, and potentially now Joey Ryan.
And our very own CJ tore his pec recently as well.
Oh, it's going around.
It's going around. It's catchy. It gives you a nasty bruise, apparently. I didn't know that.
No, I will say, like, from the pics that Joey Ryan put up, like, it doesn't look as severe as the injury that Triple H sustained.
Yeah.
Granted, he is a little bit younger than Triple H, so he said he's going to get looked at over the next week and see if he needs surgery, but it is a little bit disheartening because World Series Wrestling is coming around in a couple of weeks, and he is one half of the World Series Tag Team Champions with the Concrete Dongs.
Yeah, so, I mean, I see it going one of two ways. Either he's able to make it out, because, I mean, look, let's be honest, King of Dong style.
Yeah.
He can probably get away with wrestling in a tag match or two without further injuring. I mean, I'm not a medical professional or anything, but just looking at the style he wrestles, I mean, really, he just has to get in there and flip someone with his dick. Like, it's not... Yeah. He doesn't actually have to do any lifting or anything. So I don't know. I think it's always possible that he could make it to defend those titles anyway. Or could we see Big Fudge, who has never wrestled in World Series Wrestling, could we see him step up and we could see Conco and the Fudge defend the titles and lose them, giving us an automatic feud when Joey Ryan comes back next time?
Oh, I can see it. We've already got Robbie Eagles being the first Australian to be going for the World Series Championship. They have a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah. But I did reach out to Adrian. I shot him a message this morning when I saw the news. And he messaged back and he said, look, he's going to see the doctor today. I'll let you know when I hear anything. So we're not sure what the status is, but fingers crossed it's not as bad as it looks, and he's able to make the trip out.
Best of luck to him for a speedy recovery.
Absolutely. And the final news item of the week, and I'm glad we've saved this one for last.
Funnily enough, I should point out as well that today, November 10th, is actually Ryback's birthday.
Happy birthday, Ryback. Happy birthday, Ryback, and happy Ryback Day, to every homosexual man out there that likes Ryback's body.
So for those of you who aren't aware what we're talking about, Ryback had a bit of a Twitter conversation going on with a couple fans, and someone asked him if he felt uncomfortable that other people might be attracted to his physique.
Masturbation.
And, yeah.
Let's just call it what it is. The fan asked Ryback if he's comfortable or not with the fact that there are people out there, like homosexual men, who jerk off to Ryback's physique. And Ryback, in possibly the most, sex-positive, innocent, I don't know, it was... Yeah, you classified it as wholesome. I don't know if you could call it wholesome.
In a more in a really masculine way, but at the same time being, again, very sex positive. Just, I
loved the response. He said, wank away, brother. Wank away, brother. I need an actual audio clip of him saying that. Seriously. Wank away, brother. Ryback, you're a legend. I hope he talks about this on his podcast, because I want to hear the thought process. But it's so sex positive. He's just like, hey man, you absolutely, if you're attracted to me, if you're attracted to anyone, whatever, do what you want. I loved it. I loved every part of it.
I think it's a really sweet thing for us to end on after this wacky week of wrestling, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I saw that and I was like, I have to come on the podcast and talk about it. So, but that's it for all the rest this week. Where can people find you, Mr. Mysterious?
I am on Instagram at Mr. Mysterious with a 1 and 7 I, and also on Twitter at Mr. Mysterious, pretty much all the socials. Where can the people find you, sir?
I am at Greg Unchained on Twitter, at the Greg Unchained on Instagram. We collectively are the B Plus Wrestle on Twitter because...
wrestling wouldn't fit.
The B Plus Wrestling everywhere else. If you like what we do, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Hit us up on the socials. Let us know. We love to hear from you guys. And thank you so much for listening.
Hold one. Arm drag.
You're not doing this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God.
So, no speak English.
Dummy.
Goodbye and good night. Hold two. Arm bar.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Dummy.